people challenge, where is God? They'll say, show me God, and then I will believe. But what if I told you that God neither needs us to believe, nor does he need to prove his existence? It is we who need God. We who seek answers. Because we need to know who we are, why we're here, and what the meaning of life is. God already knows. What stops us from knowing the truth about ourselves and God? Why do we fall prey for so many religions, gurus, and gods who lead us down the garden path to nowhere? There is one giant obstacle, and that is pride. We think we can figure it out. We think we know. And we believe that our tiny little mind can comprehend the nature of the unlimited, infinite source of everything. Pride makes us blind to God. Pride destroys love. Pride makes us arrogant and makes us do foolish things. Pride, as they say, precedes a fall. We are those fallen souls who do not know that they do not know. We think we know everything. It is a great misfortune. To learn anything, one must be like an empty page, a blank canvas, an open door. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadyakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. What that means is, if you want to learn, if you want to know, if you want jnana, then you can learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So notice out here, it's not saying that the person needs to be an intellectual. It's not saying that the person needs to be a genius. It's not saying that the person has to have a lot of information. It says the self-realized soul. To realize is to go beyond just knowledge. Someone who has experience, someone who has actually is living that knowledge. That's realization. There's knowledge, and then there's the realization of knowledge. And realization goes a lot deeper than just the knowledge itself. So, a self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Parents, for example, can impart knowledge unto their children because they've walked that path before. They were once kids and they then went through the journey of life, and now they can impart some knowledge to the child. However, a self-realized soul is far more wise and deeply entrenched in that wisdom. It is true wisdom that causes the imparting of that knowledge. And so one must inquire from such a person with submissiveness. Now, that's a word that's not very popular in today's time. But what that means is in a spirit of curiosity, in a spirit of truly wanting to learn, not to just argue, not to just defy, not to just, hey, prove it to me, challenging. No, but in the spirit of inquiry, and be willing to act upon what that person is teaching you. That's what it means to render service. That's how we learn. And with that, let's get started.
Gapada
So if you remember the last chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, chapter 29, it was a beautiful autumn night. And Krishna played on his flute. And all the women of the village of Vrindavan, on hearing him, stopped everything that they were doing and ran into the forest to be with him. Some of them gave up whatever they were doing. They were with their children or their husband or with their family, or they were cooking or whatever it was they were doing. They stopped everything and ran into the forest on hearing the flute. Krishna said to them, "Why are you here? What is it you want? Why have you come? You're supposed to be home. You're supposed to be taking care of your families. You should not have come." And they were so upset, because to him, he was testing them. And to them, he was their life and soul. And without him, they could not do anything. They could not even conceive of being alive. And at this point, they had come into the forest in the middle of the night, giving up everything, and he was telling them to go back home. Try and understand, when you love somebody deeply, passionately, completely, then your heart breaks when you hear something like that. When your lover tells you to go back, "Why have you come to see me?" Now, who is Krishna? He is the supreme being. And who are the gopis? They are living beings like you and me, but who was so deeply in love with God that they had this experience of romance with God, of a passionate love for God. We'd seen earlier in the earlier episodes, love for God. We'd seen earlier in the earlier episodes the love that his parents had for him. We saw the love that his friends had for Krishna. And now we're seeing the love that the gopis, the girls, they had for Krishna. Now people may argue and say, "Oh, he's some kind of playboy, he's got all these girlfriends." Hold on, hold your horses here, please. We're not talking about some ordinary human being. We are not talking about some mortal creature. We are talking about God. And if you look at all the scriptures of the world that tell you to love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, well, yeah, if everybody was to love God, how would they love God? Is everybody's love the same? Some might want to love God in a very prayerful, respectful way. They'd say, "God is great. God is, I bow down before God." Sure, you could do that. Others might want to have a relationship with God. Others might want to have a more deep relationship with God. Some might want to think of themselves as his friend. Some might want to think of God as their father, and some might want to think of God as their child. While others might want to think of God as their husband or even as their lover. These are all different ways of loving. That's all they are. And when God incarnates into this world, he comes to show us what he is like, what he does. Because how do you love someone who you know nothing about? You can only love them when you know what they look like. It's like if you're going on a date and I tell you it's a blind date, right? You don't get to know anything about this person. You don't get to see them. You don't get to know what they do. You don't get to have any idea about them other than that they're a person. All right? That's it. That's all you get. And with that, you've got to love them. And you got to love them forever. And you got to give up everything else in the world for that person. So what are you talking about? I have to know. Now, maybe not everybody's the same, but that's the case for me. I had to know. And to me, this gave the most wonderful understanding that one can have. So now the gopis come to see Krishna and he's discouraging them, and they then really appeal to him. They talk to him and say, hey, you can't do that to us. The world doesn't matter to us. Nothing matters to us. You are the only thing that matters. We don't care about our husbands. We don't care about our children. We don't care about our homes. We don't care about anything but you. And if you ask us to leave, then you might as well ask us to die. That's the intensity of their love. And then finally Krishna relents and they all start to have a wonderful time. Now at that point, they're out in the Yamuna River. It's a beautiful moonlit night. They're singing songs. They're having wonderful moments. They're splashing around in the water. At this point, many would say, oh, wait a minute. This is crazy. No, keep in mind, the actual age of Krishna was 11. So whatever criticism and judgment you have, you can take that and keep it aside for a moment, please. The gopis at this point began to think there is no one on earth as fortunate as we are. And what entered into their minds was pride. And at that moment, Krishna disappeared. Pride and God don't go well together. Krishna, seeing the gopis too proud of their good fortune, wanted to relieve them of their pride and show them further mercy. Thus, he immediately disappeared. So, what happened next? When Krishna disappeared so suddenly, the gopis felt great sorrow at losing sight of him. As they remembered him, their hearts were overwhelmed by his movements and loving smiles, his playful glances and enchanting talks, and by the many other pastimes he would enjoy with them. Thus absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, they began acting out his various pastimes. So here they are actually acting out the things that he would do. Absorbed in thoughts of their beloved Krishna, their bodies imitated his way of moving, smiling, speaking, and looking at them. Deeply immersed in thinking of him and maddened by remembering his pastimes, they declared to one another, I am Krishna. See, they were acting as him. And they started looking for him everywhere. Singing loudly, they searched for him throughout the Vrindavan forest like a band of mad women. They even asked the trees about him. O tree, have you seen Krishna? The son of Nanda has gone away after stealing our minds with his loving smiles and glances. O tree, has the younger brother of Balaram, whose smile removes the audacity of all proud women, passed this way? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the gopis felt that the trees had not replied because they were male. But then they thought maybe Tulsi, the Tulsi plant, being female, might sympathize with their plight. So they went up to Tulsi and they said, O most kind Kalyani, Tulsi. They used the word Govinda Charana Priye, one who is dear to the feet of Krishna. To whom the feet of Krishna are so dear, have you seen that infallible one, Achyuta, walking by, wearing your leaves and encircled by a swarm of bees? In the purport, Prabhupada writes, when even Tulsi herself did not answer, then the gopis approached the fragrant jasmine flowers. The gopis, seeing the jasmine vines humbly bowing down, assumed that these plants must have seen Krishna and were therefore showing humility in their ecstasy. I want you to really contemplate the nature of this love. This is not a love that has any pride in it. It has no arrogance in it. Yes, there was a moment of pride. Yes, in that moment of pride, Krishna disappeared. But they're back again into this deep, crazy, maddening love. And this is a love for God. This is not a love for any human being. Nobody loves another human being in this way. Because if they did, we'd say, like, what's wrong with you? But this is a love in which you begin to find God everywhere. You begin to find Him in the flowers. You begin to find Him in the trees. You find Him in the grass, in the sky, in the river, in everything, everywhere, in everyone. So when He disappeared, they began to see Him everywhere. They went from being personified to being now in everything. Then they spoke to the flowers. They said, "O Malati flowers, O Malika flowers, has Madhava, Krishna, gone by here? Did he give you the pleasure of the touch of his hand? O all you plants and trees living in the banks of the Yamuna who have dedicated your very existence to the welfare of others, we, gopis, have lost our minds. So please tell us, where has Krishna gone?" In the purport, it is written by Srila Prabhupada. He quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who explains the thoughts of the gopis as follows. Perhaps the trees and plants did not hear our question because they were in trance meditating on Vishnu. Or perhaps since they will not tell us where Krishna has gone, they are hard-hearted, even though they live in a holy place. Anyway, what is the use of unnecessarily criticizing the residents of a holy place? We cannot tell if they really know where Krishna has gone. So let us find someone who definitely knows where he is. Thus the gopis concluded that since Krishna had to be somewhere on the earth herself must know his whereabouts. So then they said, "O Mother Earth, what austerity did you perform to attain the touch of Krishna's lotus feet, which has brought you such great joy that your bodily hairs are standing on end? You appear very beautiful in this condition. Was it during his current appearance that you acquired this ecstatic symptom?" So the ecstatic symptom they're referring to is that when somebody has a deep ecstasy of love of God, the hairs on their body literally stand on end. So they're comparing that to the earth with the grass on there and saying, is this an ecstasy you're feeling? These grasses that are there, are this your hair standing on end? That you're feeling this ecstatic symptom? And is it because Krishna was just here? Or was that much earlier when he stepped upon you in the form of a dwarf, Vamandev, like, millions of years ago? Or even earlier when he embraced you in the form of a boar, Varahadev? These are all different incarnations of Vishnu. Then the gopis ask, "Oh friend," they're now talking to the deer, "wife of the deer, has Achyuta, the infallible one, been here with his beloved, bringing great joy to your eyes?" Now if you notice, they're referring to someone else. That Krishna was with his beloved. Ooh, who's that? We'll come to it in just a moment. Indeed, blowing this way is the fragrance of his garland of flowers, which was smeared with kumkum from the breasts of his girlfriend when he embraced her. So who is this girlfriend who they're referring to? This is Radha. They're talking about Radha. When Krishna disappeared, he took Radha with him. Radha is, and I'm going to do a whole detailed video on who is Radha, because it's very, very important. More important than understanding Krishna is to understand Radha. Because Radha is no different than Krishna. Radha is the soul of Krishna. So think if Radha is the soul and Krishna is the body, the two are inseparable. There is no Krishna without Radha, and there is no Radha without Krishna. He who is the source of all creation, for him, his essence, his life and soul is Radha. So we will go and dive deep into that. She's not just his girlfriend as some think. She's not just his special girlfriend as some think. She is no different than him. She is the feminine aspect of God. If God that is portrayed by Krishna is the masculine, then Radha is the feminine side of that masculine. They are the same and different. In the purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur elaborates, the gopis spoke to the doe, "O friend, wife of the deer, from the bliss in your clear eyes we can tell that Krishna expanded your joy with the beauty of his limbs and his face. You are eager to realize the his limbs and his face. You are eager to realize the ecstasy of seeing him, and thus your eyes are following him. In fact, he is never lost to you." Then the gopis, seeing the doe continue to walk in her natural way, exclaimed, "Oh, are you telling us that you've seen Krishna? Look, as this deer walks, she constantly turns her head back to us as if to say, 'I will show him to you. Just follow me, and I will show you Krishna.'" In this merciless Vrindavan forest, she is the only merciful person. They're talking about the doe. As the gopis follow the doe, they happen to lose sight of her and they cry out, "Oh, why can't we see the doe who is showing us the way to Krishna?" One gopi suggests that Krishna must be somewhere in the vicinity and that the doe, being afraid of him, must have hidden herself to avoid the possible mistake of revealing his presence. Conjecturing in this way, the gopis detect a fragrance that by chance has blown their way, and they repeatedly declare with great joy, "Yes, yes, this is it!" By Krishna's physical contact with his girlfriend, with Radha, his jasmine garland was smeared with the kumkum powder on her breast, and the fragrance of all these things are reaching us. Thus the gopis smelled the aroma of the two lovers' bodies, of Krishna's jasmine garland, and of the cosmetic powder of Radha. These are very, very intimate pastimes. So much so that Shukadev, the great sage, does not even take the name of Radha here. Why? Because he's very cautious people will misunderstand. And in their misunderstanding, they will commit offenses. Because what we do is we project our impurities onto God. We think God is just like us. And we project and we see. There's a saying, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. So in the same way, we don't see God as he is. We see God as we are. And so we project our own anarthas, our impurities onto Krishna and Radha. So keep in mind that if you really want to understand these pastimes, because in understanding these pastimes, you will become liberated from all material existence. You will find in here a sweetness, an intoxication, a beauty, something that will transport you from this world into a blissful world. A world that is forever ecstatic, joyful, and full of love. But if there is any envy here, if there is any judgment here, if there is any sense of misunderstanding, that very world will be lost to you. So keep in mind, stay open, stay very, very open, stay very non-judgmental, and try to understand this great wisdom, this great knowledge with an open heart. The gopis continue, "O trees, we see that you are bowing down." When the younger brother of Ram, that is Krishna, walked by here, followed by intoxicated bees swarming around the tulsi manjaris decorating his garland, did he acknowledge your obeisances with his affectionate glances? Because the tree is bowing down. I've seen many trees like that in Vrindavan. They really do bow down. They're like so much going towards the ground. It's as if they're bowing to Krishna. This is in Vrindavan, the place where he was born. And even till today, you will see trees like that. In fact, they're all over Vrindavan. He must have been resting his arm on the shoulder of his beloved and carrying a lotus flower in his free hand. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the gopis saw that the trees bent over with abundant fruits and flowers. They supposed that Krishna must have recently passed that way since the trees were still bowing down. Because Krishna had left the gopis to go with his favorite consort, Radha, They were jealous and imagined that he had become fatigued and was resting his left arm on the shoulder of his beloved. The gopis further imagined that Krishna must have been carrying a blue lotus in his right hand to drive away the bees eagerly trying to attack his beloved's face after smelling its aroma. The scene was so beautiful. The gopis imagined that the maddened bees had left the Tulsi garden to follow the two lovers. Then the gopis said, "Let us ask these creepers about Krishna. Even though they are embracing the arms of their husband," the creepers, the husband being the tree, "they certainly must have been touched by Krishna's fingernails, since out of joy they are manifesting eruptions on their skin." The creepers are. Distraught from searching for Krishna, the gopis began to act out his various pastimes, fully absorbed in thoughts of him. So Krishna says in the Gita, he says, "Always think of me. Man mana bhava mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskuru." Always think of me, bow down before me, give your love to me. Surely you will come to me. Right? Man mana bhava mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskuru. The word used in this verse and in all the verses you'll come across in the Gita is mam, me, or aham, myself. Krishna, who is the speaker. So he's saying, "Aham sarvasya prabhavo." I am the source of all physical and material world. Sarvasya means everything. Prabhavo. That same Krishna, who is the source of all material and spiritual world, says, "Man mana bhava mad bhakto." Mad bhakta, become my devotee. Man mana bhava mad bhakta. So always think of me, become my devotee, and surely you will come to me. Now the gopis are exemplifying this teaching in the most perfect of ways. How are they remembering Krishna? It's not something they close their eyes and they remember. No, they're actually going one step further. They're actually acting out the pastimes of Krishna. They're acting out with each other. So let's see what they were doing. Various pastimes they're remembering. This is as they're looking everywhere. One gopi imitated Putana. Do you remember Putana? While another acted like infant Krishna and pretended to suck her breast. Another gopi, crying in imitation of infant Krishna, kicked another gopi who was acting as the cart demon. So these were all different demons who had come to attack Krishna when he was a baby. And he had killed all of them, even as a little tiny baby. One gopi took the role of Trinavarta and carried another away, who was acting like infant Krishna. So this whirlwind demon had come and carried Krishna up into the sky, and Krishna had gone for the ride for a little while, and then basically throttled him in the neck, and then until Trinavarta, and he became so heavy that basically Trinavarta had to bring him down, and then Krishna just killed him by suffocating him. That was baby Krishna, not even a year old. So one gopi took the role of Trinavarta and carried away another who was acting like infant Krishna, while yet another gopi crawled about, her ankle belts tinkling as she pulled her feet. Two gopis acted like Balaram and Krishna in the midst of several others who took the role of cowherd boys. One gopi enacted killing of the demon Vatsasura, represented by another gopi, and a pair of gopis acted out the killing of Bakasura. These were all different asuras, or demons who had come to try to kill Krishna, all on the order of King Kans. The king had found out that this boy was born who was extremely powerful, and there was this prediction that this boy was going to kill the king. King Kans now was trying to send all kinds of characters who could kill Krishna. And So he sent there were people at that time who had developed mystical powers with which they could change their form. They were like shapeshifters, and they could change their form and take on any form. So they were using these forms as disguises by which they could come into the presence of Krishna, and then they could kill him. But all their attempts were failing. One gopi perfectly imitated how Krishna would call the cows who had wandered far away, how he would play his flute, and how he would engage in various sports. The others congratulated her with exclamations of, "Well done, well done." Another gopi, her mind fixed on Krishna, walked about with her arm resting on the shoulder of her friend and declared, "I am Krishna, just see how gracefully I move." Then another one said, "Don't be afraid of the wind and the rain. I will save you." And with that, she lifted her shawl above her head. So this is enacting the pastime of Krishna lifting Govardhan hill. Krishna lifted an entire hill. So I don't know if you were there for that episode, but there was an entire hill, which is actually about 14 kilometers around, even today, and I think it was higher earlier. But that hill, Govardhan, he lifted it on his left hand pinky for 7 days and nights, while this huge storm was sent by Indra to try to devastate or destroy the village of Vrindavan, because Krishna had told his family members to stop worshipping the rain god, the god of all gods, Indra, and that the king of all gods. And so he was like, Indra was so upset. And he thought, who is this Krishna? How dare he try to tell people to stop worshipping me? And Krishna said, yeah, I don't want you to worship any other god. Stop. You can worship the cows if you want. You can worship Govardhan Hill if you want. And so his family members were very innocent and believed everything he said, just followed his instructions. So when Indra sent that storm, Krishna just lifted the Govardhan Hill and told everybody, come and stand underneath the hill and I will take care of you. So one of the gopis had lifted her shawl above her head and she was saying, don't be afraid of the wind and rain. I will save you. And then she put her shawl above her head and called everyone else to come underneath it. One gopi climbed on another's shoulders and putting her foot on the other's head said, go away from here, O wicked snake. So this was, for those of you who have missed all this, is a great way to recap. This was the Kaliya serpent who had come into the river Yamuna and was poisoning the waters of the river. And so Krishna had jumped into the water and then began to dance upon the heads upon the Kaliya snake, and eventually became so heavy as he danced on the snake's hoods that the snake just completely gave up and surrendered. Says, okay, I don't know who you are, I don't know what you are, but you must be Vishnu, you must be the Supreme Being who has come, because nobody has ever been able to defeat me. So Kaliya was defeated in this way and then sent away from the river Yamuna. So then the gopi is saying, go away from here, O wicked snake. You should know that I have taken birth in this world just to punish the envious. Then another gopi spoke up. My dear cowherd boys, look at this raging forest fire. Quickly close your eyes and I will easily protect you. This was another time when Krishna had protected all the village people from this huge... Another time when Krishna had protected all the village people from this huge forest fire. And he just swallowed it up. Now, wouldn't that be so amazing if that was happening in California? We hear of these incredible fires right now. And yeah, it's a forest fire just like that had once happened. And Krishna had just protected everyone by swallowing it up. That's the power of God. Oh, how is this possible? A young boy, you can do that? Well, yeah, that's what happens when you're dealing with God. And yet, for the people of Vrindavan, he was just their friend. He was just their buddy. They could not put two and two together that somebody who could do all these incredible things must be God. He can't be any other normal person. I mean, he wasn't just doing some little miracle here and there. He was doing things that were just absolutely unheard of. And yet, he did not want any of them to think of him as God. So he would make them forget about everything. He would make them just kind of like, it's normal. It's like, another day in Vrindavan. Then one gopi tied up her slender companion with a flower garland and said, "Now I will bind this boy who has broken the butter pots and stolen the butter." So this is about the story of Mother Yashoda, Krishna's mother, tying up Krishna when he had broken the pots of butter and fed that to the monkeys. He was a naughty, mischievous boy. So he had done that, and then his mother had been so upset that she tied him up to this wooden grinding mortar. And then Krishna had dragged that mortar, after his mom went away again, he had dragged that mortar out into the garden and knocked down 2 trees that were there. These turned out to be 2 great souls, devas, who had been cursed, and they'd been cursed to stand as trees. And he released them from that curse. And they then were able to go back home to the heavenly planets. But yeah, that was the story of just beautiful stories, just all these wonderful stories, just all these wonderful pastimes of Krishna that we got to experience. And if you haven't yet, watched them or heard them, please go back. We have the entire thing on all these episodes there on the playlist that you'll find. Which has got, I think it's under Divine Love Podcast, or it's under Srimad Bhagavatam, and you'll find all of these wonderful, wonderful narratives which show us how Krishna was winning the hearts of all the people of Vrindavan. They were just mesmerized by his activities. They were just in love with him. And it is that love that he had come here to give them and to exhibit to the world, that this is what God is, this is what God does, and this is how we just absolutely can't help but fall in love with him. While the gopis were thus imitating Krishna's pastimes and asking Vrindavan's creepers and trees where Krishna, the Supreme Soul, might be, they happened to see his footprints in a corner of the forest. The gopis said, "Hey, the marks of a flag, lotus, thunderbolt, elephant goat, barleycorn, and so on. These footprints clearly distinguish them as belonging to the great soul, the son of King Nanda." So this is what they were referring to. There were all kinds of markings on Krishna's feet. And so seeing those markings, they were able to identify those footprints as clearly belonging to Krishna. The gopis began following Krishna's path as shown by his many footprints, but when they saw that these prints were thoroughly intermixed with those of his dear most beloved, they became perturbed and spoke as follows. The gopis said, "Here we see the footprints of Radha, who must have been walking along with Krishna. He must have put his arm on her shoulder. Certainly this particular gopi has perfectly worshipped the all-powerful personality of Godhead, Govinda." So clearly they know who he is, and yet they don't know who he is, because they use the words Bhagavan Harir Ishwaraha. They know that he is Bhagavan, that he is Hari, he is Ishwara, the supreme controller of all the universes. On one hand, they know this, that he is the supreme being, Bhagavan, and that Radha has perfectly worshipped him. She is Aradhita. From the word Aradhana, from worship, the word worship, Aradhana, comes the word Radha. So Radha is the one who knows how to worship him perfectly. And therefore we are all followers of Radha. We know this, that only one who follows Radha will be able to reach Krishna. Only one who truly follows in her footsteps and serves her will be able to reach Krishna, because Krishna is very difficult to obtain otherwise. So certainly this particular gopi has perfectly worshipped the all-powerful personality of Godhead, Govinda, since he was so pleased with her that he abandoned the rest of us and brought her to a secluded place. At this point, the commentary of, well, let me show you some pictures first. This is Radha. She is the embodiment of divine love. She is the source of love and of sweetness and of all wonderful qualities of mercy, of compassion. And this is Radha and Krishna together. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the word Aradhita refers to Srimati Radharani. He comments, the sage Shukdev Goswami has tried with all endeavor to keep her name hidden, but now it automatically shines forth from the moon of his mouth. That he has spoken her name is indeed her mercy, and thus the word Aradhita is like the rumbling of a kettle drum sounded to announce her good fortune. Although the gopis spoke as if jealous of Radharani, they were actually ecstatic to see that she had captured Sri Krishna. The gopis then said, "O girls, the dust of Govinda, of Krishna's lotus feet, is so sacred that even Brahma, the creator of the universe, and Shiva, and the goddess Lakshmi or Rama, take that dust upon their head to dispel sinful reactions. These footprints of that special gopi," again they're not using her name, "greatly disturb us. Of all the gopis, she alone was taken away to a secluded place where she is enjoying the lips of Krishna. Look, we can't see her footprints over here. It's obvious that the grass and sprouts were hurting the tender soles of her feet. And so Krishna lifted up his beloved. Please observe, my dear gopis, how in this place lusty Krishna's footprints are pressed more deeply into the ground. Carrying the weight of his beloved must have been difficult for him. And over there, that intelligent boy must have put her down to gather some flowers." So it's very interesting that the word lusty is used here. Because in fact, there is a big distinction between what is lust and what is prem. Kam or lust in the Vedic literature refers to something that is selfish. All of us, when we love someone, we want something. I think a mother's love is traditionally known to be the least selfish, where she cares more about the baby than about herself. But then as the child gets older, even parents tend to have expectations from their children. They want their kid to become this or that or the other. Right? In India, at least, they want them to become an engineer, a doctor, something, be successful, right? In the material sense. But Kam is different from prem. So when two people fall in love, they have expectations of each other. When two people fall in love, they have needs, need to be taken care of. Those needs could be physical, they could be mental, they could be emotional, they could be spiritual. They want their needs to be met. And if their needs are not met, eventually they will break off and go away with someone else, or, just not be with anyone, for whatever, But they will not be with that person if their needs are not met. If that person does not fulfill them, does not make them happy. People say, I want someone who will make me laugh, or I want someone who will fulfill me, or someone who will take care of me, or someone who will whatever. All of those expectations tell you that this is not love. This is kam. Kam means lust. Lust means desire. I want something from you. But when there is no wanting anything, when the love is unconditional, no conditions attached, when it is pure in that way, then it is prem. And so you can see here the gopis' love for Krishna and Radha is not about themselves. They are happy for the fact that Radha is happy. They are happy to contemplate the love that these two have for each other. They have been left behind. They have been deserted, rejected in the middle of the forest. And they are heartbroken because for a while Krishna was with them. And now he's taken off with Radha. And now they're happy for their happiness. That is real love. that when you are happy for the happiness of another, Joi joi pyaro bhave soi bhave moi, that whatever my beloved likes is what I like. And joi joi moi bhave soi bhave pyaro, whatever I like is what my beloved likes. But that comes unconditionally. It doesn't come with expectations, with needs, with fears. No. Whatever it is, do you think that because Krishna went off with another woman, shall we just use that term as people will say in today's time, that they're going to stop loving him? No. Are they going to say, oh, he's just a, this, that, and the other? No. Their love for him even is more intense. There was a term in some communities, I think it's the polyamory community, where they would call that compersion, to be happy for the happiness of your beloved. So that word actually conveys that idea. In the purport it is written, the word vadhum indicates that even though Sri Krishna was not officially married to Radha, he had in fact made her his bride in the Vrindavan forest. So this is another criticism you will find. Why did Krishna never marry Radha? The fact of the matter is, to get married, you need two people. But when you're dealing with two who are actually one soul that has become two, then there cannot be a marriage between them. They can love each other, just as you can love yourself, but you cannot marry yourself. I mean, you can, but that's not, you can't go to the the registrar for marriages and say, hey, I'm here to get married to myself. Would you please register the marriage? No, it won't happen. Or if you go to a priest in a church or a temple or anywhere else and say, I'm here to get married to myself, okay? So just do the ceremony. They're not going to do it. So when you talk of Krishna and Radha, they are one soul in two parts, in two forms, masculine and feminine. They cannot get officially married. There is no official marrying of these two. They are one and the same. They are no different from each other. Just different aspects. So that is why. That point needs to be very clear, because a lot of people come up with this idea that, well, he married 16,108 wives later on when he went to Dwarka. Why did he not marry Radha? If Radha was his greatest lover, if Radha was his greatest beloved, if Radha was the one who loved him the most and he was the one who loved Radha the most, then how could it be? No. There's a deep meaning to all of that. We'll be talking about it as we go further. So please, I can't answer everything at one moment, at one time. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur further continues. He says, the gopis use the word kamina here to indicate the following thoughts. We actually love Sri Krishna, but still he has rejected us. Therefore his private dealings with Radha prove that this young prince of Vraj, Krishna, has carried her away. If he was interested in love, he would have accepted us instead of that cowherd girl, Radharani. These thoughts reveal the mood of the gopis, who are feeling a sense of rivalry with Srimati Radharani. Of course, the gopis who are her direct allies were jubilant to see her good fortune. So there's this very mixed feeling going on. On one hand, they're feeling a bit of enviousness. They're feeling a bit of rivalry. But on the other hand, they're very happy for her happiness. It's a very mixed feeling. On one hand, they would like to have been with Krishna, but on the other hand, they're happy that she's with Krishna. The gopis continue, just see how this place that is dear, where dear Krishna collected flowers for his beloved. Here he has left the impression of only the front part of his feet because he was standing on his toes to reach the flowers. Suddenly Krishna sat down here with his girlfriend to arrange her hair. The lusty boy must have made a crown for that lusty girl out of flowers that he had collected. And this is really one of my most favorite pictures of Radha and Krishna. You see him, he's picked flowers with his own hands, and then he's decorating her hair with those flowers. And when she looks in the mirror, she looks to see him. Not looking at herself, really. And when he sees her looking in the mirror, he looks there so he can see her. But this beautiful way in which he will decorate her and he will dress her and it's just completely divine, if nothing else. So in the purport it says, the Acharyas explained that Krishna wanted to decorate Radha's hair with the forest flowers he had collected. Therefore they sat down together facing the same direction, with Radharani between Krishna's knees, and Krishna proceeded to arrange her hair with flowers and make a flower crown for her, coronating her as the goddess of the forest, Vrindavaneshwari. Thus the romantic young boy and girl played and joked together in Vrindavan. Vrindavan actually means, Vana means forest and Vrinda is Tulsi. So the forest of Tulsi, that's what it actually means. Krishna enjoyed with that gopi, that is Radha, although he enjoys only within, being self-satisfied and complete in himself. Thus by contrast he showed the wretchedness of ordinary, lusty men and hard-hearted women. Purport. This verse directly refutes the superficial criticism materialistic people sometimes direct towards Krishna's pastimes. The philosopher Aristotle claimed that ordinary activities are, quote unquote, unworthy of God, and with this idea in mind, some people declare that since the activities of Krishna resemble those of ordinary human beings, he cannot be the absolute truth. But in this verse, Shukdev Goswami, the great sage, emphatically points out that Krishna acts on the liberated platform of spiritual self-satisfaction. Means he is spiritually self-satisfied, and yet he enjoys giving pleasure to all his loved ones, and particularly his beloved Radha. This fact is indicated here by the terms Atmarata, Atmaram, and Akhandita. It is inconceivable to ordinary people that a handsome young boy and a beautiful young girl enjoying romantic conjugal affairs in the forest moonlight can be engaging in pure activity, free from egoistic desire and lust. Yet while Krishna is inconceivable to ordinary persons, those who love him can easily realize the absolute pure nature of his activities. One may argue that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and that therefore the devotees of Krishna are only imagining that his activities are pure. This argument ignores many significant facts. For one, the path of developing love for Krishna demands that a devotee strictly follow 4 regulative principles. The first of which is no illicit sex, meaning no sex outside of marriage, no gambling, no intoxication, and no eating of meat, fish, or eggs. When one is freed from material lust and rises to the liberated platform beyond material desire, one realizes the absolute beauty of Sri Krishna. This process is not theoretical. It has been practiced and completed by many thousands of great sages who have left us their shining example and their brilliant teachings concerning the path of bhakti or Krishna consciousness. Certainly beauty is in the eye of the beholder. However, real beauty is perceived by the eye of the soul and not by the lusty eye of the material body. Therefore, the Vedic literature repeatedly stresses that only those free from material desire can see the beauty of Krishna with the eye of the pure soul, anointed with love of God. It may finally be noted that upon realizing the pastimes of Krishna, one becomes free of all tinges of sexual desire, a state of mind that can hardly result from meditating upon material sexual affairs. So the point that's being made is that there is such purity in this love that it purifies us to hear of it. If we hear it from an open heart and an open mind, this very pastimes purify our heart, our mind, our consciousness to the point where we become completely free from all tinge of sexual desire and attraction for the opposite sex. This has been proven hundreds and thousands of times by devotees who have followed this path and who have actually experienced this freedom, this liberation from desire. from lust, not only for sex, but also for for material enjoyment, for wine, for wealth, for, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim. He says, I desire neither wealth, nor women, nor prestige. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavita. Gadisha kamaye. One becomes free from kama or lust. Mama janmani janmani ishware bhavatad bhakti rahaituki tvai. And my only wish is for none of these, neither for wealth, women, nor prestige, he says, but to have a haituki, inconceivable, unlimited, unending love for God. One final note. The conjugal pastimes of Krishna perfectly round out his qualification as the supreme absolute truth. The Vedanta states that the absolute truth is the source of everything. So certainly the absolute, or God, cannot lack any of the beautiful things of this world. See, as above, so below. Everything we see in this world also exists in its pure form with God. He continues, it is only because romantic affairs exist in pure spiritual form in the Absolute or God that they can manifest in a perverted material form in this world. Thus, the apparent beauty of this world is not to be rejected. Rather, beauty should be accepted in its pure spiritual form. Since the beginning of time, men and women have been inspired to poetic rapture by the art of romance. Unfortunately, romance in this world usually leads to crushing disappointment brought about by a change of heart or by death. Thus, although we may at first find romantic affairs beautiful and enjoyable, they are eventually spoiled by the onslaught of material nature. Still, it is unreasonable to totally reject the concept of romance. Rather, we should accept conjugal attraction in its absolute, perfect, pure form as it exists within God, without a tinge of material lust or selfishness. That pure conjugal attraction, the supreme beauty and pleasure of the supreme truth, is what we are reading about here in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. As the gopis wandered about, their minds completely bewildered, they pointed out various signs of Krishna's pastimes. The particular gopi whom Krishna had led into the secluded forest when he had abandoned all other young girls began to think herself as the best of women. My beloved has rejected all the other gopis, she thought. So now they're saying this is Radha. She's thinking, my beloved has rejected all the other gopis, she thought. Even though they are driven by Cupid himself, he has chosen to reciprocate with me alone. Now in the purport it explains, previously all the gopis had become proud of their association with Krishna and then suddenly lost his association. Now only Radha remained with him. And now she, that is Radha, thinks that she has become proud and will suffer a similar fate. Krishna then arranges all this to reveal the gopis' unparalleled devotion for him, a devotion whose intensity fully manifests in moments of separation. So this is another key secret, that the love that is felt between Krishna and the gopis, between Krishna and Radha, is at one level when they are together. And when they are apart, that love becomes 100 times more intense. As you saw with the gopis looking for Krishna in the forest, it became so much more intensified. And so that's what we start noticing again and again, that when there is love in togetherness, and then there is love in separation. That love of separation is so intense that Krishna actually came thousands of years later in the form of Chaitanya 500 years ago. So Krishna appeared around 5,000 years ago, but 500 years ago he appeared in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Radha and Krishna combined in one form. And he came to experience, what is this love that Radha feels for me? I have never experienced it. I want to experience it. So he came as Radha and Krishna together to experience her love, because he came in the mood of Radha. And so he was experiencing the ecstasy of Radha's love, that love that she felt in moments of separation. As the two lovers passed through one part of the Vrindavan forest, the special gopi, that is Radha, began feeling proud of herself. She told Krishna, Keshava, I cannot walk any further. Please carry me wherever you want to go. Thus addressed, Krishna replied, just climb on my shoulder. But as soon as he said this, he disappeared. His beloved consort then immediately felt great remorse. She cried out, Hey Nath, O Master, Ramana, my lover, Prishta, O dearmost, where are you? Where are you? Please, O mighty armed one, O friend, show yourself to me, your wretched servant. Karpana yaha. She's just feeling so devastated when he left, because he disappeared now from Radha also. In the purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes the following moving exchange. Radha says, My Lord, I am being burnt in the great fire of separation from you, and my life air is about to leave my body. My pran is about to leave the body. Even with the greatest endeavor, I cannot maintain my life. But you are the Lord of my life, and so you can quickly save me simply by glancing upon me. Please do so immediately. I beg you to save my life, not for my sake, but rather for yours. After giving up all the other gopis, you brought me so far to a secluded place in the forest, just to enjoy special pleasure with me. If I die, you will not be able to find conjugal happiness anywhere else. You will remember me and thus lament in your sorrow. Krishna replies, So let me become unhappy. What does that matter to you? Then she says, But you are most dear to me. I will feel your unhappiness millions of times more than you. Even if I've already died, I still will not be able to tolerate the pain that even one spot on the nails of your lotus feet may experience. Indeed, to prevent such pain, I am ready to throw my life away millions and millions of times. So kindly show me yourself and drive away this unhappiness. But if your life air is on the verge of leaving your body, what can I do to stop that? Says Krishna. Simply by the touch of your arms, which are a medicinal herb, with the power to revive the dead, my body will return to its healthy, normal condition, and my pran, my life air, will automatically come back and remain in my body. Krishna replies, But you know the forest path yourself without my help, so why did you order me, the king's son, and a very young and gentle boy who is to be respected? Why did you command, take me wherever you wish? Why do you anger me like this? Radha cries out, Please show yourself to your wretched maidservant. Be merciful to me. Be merciful. When I ordered you, I was overcome by sleepiness. I was so tired from playing with you. Therefore, please excuse me. Please don't be angry. It was only because you treated me like such a close friend, though I am unworthy, that I spoke like that to you. Krishna replies, All right, my dear love, I am very pleased with you, so please come to me. Radha says, But I've been blinded by lamentation. I can't see where you are. Please tell me where you are. So this whole conversation now is happening. But in all of it, you see her deep humility. You see her deep example that she's showing us, and how if we need to attract Krishna, we need to have that level of humility, because Krishna is drawn to that. If we think that we are very great devotees, if we think we are great lovers of God, if we think we know so much, if we think we are so fortunate or blessed or whatever it might be, no, He doesn't come to us. But it is when we are truly in a state of humility, when we see how unworthy we are, how we have no love inside us, how we have no qualifications, no good qualities, when we see that, when that humility is real and sincere, then He comes to us. Why? Because He's drawn to our humility. Because our humility is where surrender happens. What is surrender? Surrender is the ultimate point of union. It is when there is surrender between the lover and the beloved that true union takes place. It is when the finger surrenders to the body that the finger is now become one with the body. The finger started doing its own thing. That wouldn't be quite useful, would it? So when the part becomes aligned with the whole, when the devotee becomes surrendered to God, then they come into union. That union is called yoga. That yoga is in its ultimate form bhakti, devotion or love of God. So while continuing to search out Krishna's path, the gopis discovered their unhappy friend, or rather close by. She was bewildered by separation from her lover. She told them how Madhava or Krishna had given her such respect, but how she then suffered dishonor because of her misbehavior. The gopis were extremely amazed to hear this. In search of Krishna, the gopis then entered the depths of the forest as far as the light of the moon shone. But they found themselves engulfed in darkness and decided to turn back. Their minds absorbed in thoughts of him, they conversed about him, acted out his pastimes, and felt themselves filled with his presence. They completely forgot about their homes, and they loudly sang the glories of Krishna's transcendental qualities. And that's what this picture is about. In the purport is written, actually there is no separation from Krishna for his pure devotees. Although apparently abandoned by Krishna, the gopis were actually deeply connected to him by the spiritual process of hearing and chanting his glories. So that's the process recommended for all of us. If we simply engage in hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna and his pastimes and his name, then immediately we are connected. Even as you are listening to these, if you have been listening with an open mind, you will feel a deep sense of connection. You will feel time stop. You will feel a sense of deep peace coming over you. And that is how he connects you to him. The gopis again and again came back to the bank of the Kalindi, the Yamuna, meditating on Krishna and eagerly hoping he would come. They sat down together to sing of him. So with that, we're going to end for today. If you have any questions, I hope you've written them down. Or if you haven't, you can write them down now. But I'd love to know your thoughts, your questions. And next time we're going to talk about the Gopi's song of separation, Gopi Geet, very, very famous prayer, very famous song, a very famous devotional that we're going to go over. It's very, very beautiful. And I look forward to sharing that with you next time. All right, it sounds like there's no questions here, so we're going to end with that. Thank you so much for being here. Deeply honored to have your presence. And have a wonderful night. Hare Krishna. See you next week.